Sounds like it's been a very busy week for Phil Duncan from weatherwatch.co.nz. Phil, I know the weather's not your fault, but reporting on it, that is something which I'm sure has kept you busy right through the week, right?
Yeah, the radio stations in particular like to ring me very early in the morning. So the old, 5:50 a.m. text going, "Are you awake? Can we ring you right now?"
Oh, my goodness.
I wasn't. I was asleep, and now I'm not. So yes, I'll do the interview. Might as well. I'm just going to lie there otherwise. So
Well, nice
it's
to be talking
really
to
good.
you at a much more civilised
Yeah, that's
hour
right.
just before
Lunchtime
the
is much
weekend.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And having said that, it would seem, yes, torrential rain, orange rain warning, some pretty high winds, some states of emergency in parts of the country, a whole bunch of snow, particularly for Mount Hutt. But we're almost at the end of that system, are we?
Yeah, pretty much. So the low this morning when we woke up was right over the top of the Chatham Islands. Last night, that low was just off the coast of Upper, pretty much hugging the lower North Island. So it's moved along quite a long way
Yeah.
overnight. And by this evening, it will be no longer a central area of low pressure. It'll be stretched out east and southeast of the Chatham Islands, so moving away from us. At the same time, a big high pressure system from Aussie is moving in. And both of those things happening, the low moving away and the high coming in, produces this big southerly. So the southerly is going up the country today, but at the same time that it does that, today, tonight, tomorrow, it's drying out. And so for those in the North Island that want snow on the ski fields, not going to be much. There might be a little bit today, but then as we go through with the colder air, it gets drier into the weekend. And to be honest with you, I was just talking to someone in the South Island. They were saying, the lower South Island, it's not that cold, considering their high is 12 degrees, but their low tonight is 9.
Yeah.
He's like, that's well above average. So
Yeah.
they're happy.
Yeah, and hey, from a north of New Zealand point of view, I'm just kind of glad the humidity's dropped actually, because it's been pretty nasty over the last couple of weeks.
I said in my weather video yesterday on YouTube how the humidity in the top of the New Zealand, after being absent for most of summer, we didn't
Yeah.
have a very humid summer. We had a really hot, dry summer, but it wasn't overly humid. Humidity's been really kicking in with these subtropical systems. We've had two or three. It could be another one next weekend as well. We're really in a bit of a pattern at the moment. But between now and sort of middle of next week, a lot of southerlies, a lot of southwesterlies, a lot of southeasterlies. So that humidity will be much lower. It'll be coolest in the south and the east of both of the main islands, but many areas in the north will have some very pleasant weather, especially southeasters, which can be very sunny for Waikato and Auckland and central parts of the North Island. And there'll be a big part of the South Island inland. Canterbury, for example, westerly winds kick in a lot more next week. They'll warm up to nor'westers as we go through the week.
Yep.
So for Canterbury, that'll be good. Dry, warmer weather that is exactly what they want.
When it comes to the wind, because this has probably caused as much disruption as the rain, with flights and ferries cancelled, and of course there's been slips in some areas as well. The wind generally calming down as we go into the weekend.
Yeah, it is. It could still be a little bit windy on Saturday around both islands, and high pressure comes into the South Island more so by nighttime. So Sunday will be calm for most of the South Island, still a little breezy in the North Island over the weekend. By Monday, that high smack bang over the top of New Zealand. It fits inside the cocoon, and so it'll be light winds right across New Zealand. And what we'll find as we go through next week and the high moves further out over the Chatham Islands and further away from the mainland, we'll get more of a nor'wester and then a more humid sort of nor'easter returning to the top of New Zealand. So it's to me, this is kind of normal autumn weather, or
Yep.
certainly normal April weather. We're now in May, but we're going to be seeing a continuation of that April weather pattern as we go into this month, which means some big stretches of dry, warm weather, and then some stretches of rain, low pressure, severe weather. So it's, to me, that's a fairly well organized autumn weather pattern.
Now, it may seem normal to you as a meteorologist, but for the people of, Seddon and Canterbury, for example, it hasn't really been that normal over the last 48 hours. Some very, very heavy rain, of course, states of emergency there, and a lot of rain in a short period of time, particularly after a dry summer, not really used to it.
That's right. If you think about how we were yesterday, the low pressure system itself was pretty much over the top of the North Island, so central lower parts of the North Island. So if you've got a low pressure system there and you think of it as like a roundabout,
Yep.
with the traffic going around it clockwise, that is the reason why it was pulling down all that tropical air and then sucking it back up as a southerly. So it felt like in the South Island it's a cold southerly, but actually it was a wet tropical system. That's why some areas were very warm with the rain. Others had that cold southerly, and where the two meet, tropical moisture, southerly wind, that's the area with the heavy snow. You go a little further north of that, there's no snow, but very heavy rain in the mountains.
Yep.
So that's why it's broken up. And once that southerly, as I said before, when it goes nationwide tonight and tomorrow, it dries out a lot more. So you won't get all that rain and that snow with it. It becomes more of a normal, showery May day across the country, and that's what we'll be seeing.
Just wanted to talk about the contrast, though, because yes, heavy rain in Canterbury, but not like we saw a few years ago when it was taking out bridges and everything. Is that because it was more localized to the plains and not up in the mountains?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was coming in from the sea, which, I mean, that other event had that similar thing. But a lot of the rain that Canterbury's had with floods was either forming with low pressure over the South Island, or it was a wetter sort of system like this feeding in more of an east to northeast flow, less of a south to southeast one. So little sort of nuances in there which can make a big difference in the overall setup. Also, a lot of the heaviest rain was actually a little further north of Canterbury, up around sort of Kaikoura, going up further up into the Marlborough area. So a lot of that rain would have hit the hills and gone straight out to sea again. So not quite as problematic. New Zealand's always interesting. Every rain event is unique, and it just takes a little bit of a twist in the wind and an entirely different valley gets flooded, and it's a different setup every single time. There is no carbon copy with weather, even if it looks similar on a weather map.
Yeah, and hey, it's a different puzzle for you to solve every single time. Thank you for what you do, and I do hope that you don't get any early morning texts and phone calls, that you have a restful weekend. Phil, thanks for what you do at weatherwatch.co.nz. Of course, we can keep up to date with whatever the weather is doing and get the app for that as well. Thanks for being part of the program once again.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.